This week, I'm going with Darnay Holmes. Now, he's shown a knack with not a lot of playing time, but when he does get his opportunity, he shows a knack to be around the football, making plays, especially on those third downs where you need the defense to step up and make a play to keep those guys and hold them to fourth down. So I'm looking for Darnay Holmes to have a big day, kind of come out and have one of those games that make you say, okay, Darnay Holmes is here. He's playing the game well. He's seeing the game well. And I think he's only gotten better week to week.
One of the things that we know about Kyle Allen is he struggles at the quarterback position when you take away his first read. We know that Bradbury's pretty much going to be following their number ones and possibly McLaurin unless he's in the slot. That's going to give opportunities to Darnay Holmes to come up with some big plays. And one of the things you have to look at with Kyle Allen, last year, 17 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, but he actually had 9 interceptions dropped. So that's something that we can make up on our end.
Exactly.
I'm sticking with you. I'm going on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going with Tomlinson in this football game. We saw the way that Antonio Gibson ran right before their bye up against the Dallas Cowboys. You know that they're going to want to come out and ground and pound to get that attack going, and it's the traps, the counters. He's going to have to make sure that he maintains gap discipline and is able to hold up the double teams for the linebackers to run.
Yeah, that's extremely important. And when you say linebackers, Blake Martinez, those guys crashing through those holes, when they stand those guys up and they get to see the lanes that they can attack and make plays in the backfield. So that's going to be important, not just for Dalvin Thompson, but that entire defensive line to hold up, give those lanes to the linebackers, and shut those guys and make plays when you have the opportunity to. So I know Washington's going to want to get that running game going to kind of have a balanced attack and help Kyle Allen, but that defensive line has to put a stop to that early and put more of the onus on Kyle Allen to be great.
And speaking of Kyle Allen, that's the player that we need to keep below the numbers in this football
in case you couldn't tell, we probably mentioned him about 4 times here. But yes, you got to keep Kyle Allen in check. Again, neutralize the running game. Don't let them have those big yards on the ground, which makes that balanced attack so special when he gets the ball to Terry McLaurin and all those guys. So got to keep Kyle in check.
He's still a young player. He gets away from his techniques and fundamentals when he's pressured, especially in the A and B gaps. And we need to force this game into the hands of Kyle Allen.
Carl, we're going to take a look at the Washington run game.
They have had success in the run game, and they've done it up front, Bob. But the key here for the Giants will be their defensive front playing the techniques that they're supposed to play. So you've got guys that are supposed to stay in gaps. If you're supposed to split a double team, hold the double team. If you are out of place, this is where Washington exploits you. Gibson's a very explosive runner. He hits the hole and he gets vertical right away. Now let's just take a look here, and we're going to highlight 2 guys right here. We'll run this. The first guy jumps out of his lane. I'll run it back again. He jumps out of his lane, which gives a free run at the linebacker. He's here, already blocked himself, and the runner is through it. So if you bring this back, if you're supposed to stay here on this double to allow this linebacker to stay here, you build a wall, and there's nowhere for the runner to go when he gets the ball. But by jumping out of your lane right away, you make 2 easy blocks for the offensive line.
All right, let's go to the other side of the ball, because when you take a look at Washington as a football team, Carl, their biggest strength this year is their defense. They have one of the better defenses in the National Football League, and they held Dallas to their lowest net yards since 2001 in their last game.
Yeah, but the thing about this is counting the bodies again, Bob. You count the numbers on each side of the football. If you just do this as an offensive lineman, the center and your running back, they have to communicate to the lineman up front how many people are on each side. Now, if you take this side of the football, you got basically 4 potential rushers in the vicinity of the football. Clear it, run it. You see a guy threatening, you see another guy jump up, right? Let's bring it back. This guy is threatening, but this guy is creeping up too. They still have enough guys to block him. You got 3 rushers, you've got 3 blockers. They just have to get them blocked, and the quarterback stays upright. When you don't, mistakes happen.
Yeah, Washington is one of the better teams at getting after the quarterback as well this season. They have 22 sacks. Another look, Carl.
This is the same look different angle, guy pulls out, but you got enough guys to block him right here. This guy, this guy, this guy, you got 1, 2, and a late blocker there. But it's all about communication. Now, the good news is this isn't the first blitzing team that the Giants offensive line has seen. So it's about just communicating the numbers.
We welcome in your former teammate, the captain, Harry Carson. And Harry, when you know it's Washington week and it's a game in Washington, does it kind of get your adrenaline flowing a little bit?
Yeah, it really does. Anytime you're playing against teams in your own division, you really want to get up for those teams, especially when you're going to them. And so, knowing that they're playing Washington this week, the players should be excited, but the former players are probably even more excited because they go back to those days when, you go down to the old RFK Stadium and you used to see the Hogs, in the stands bouncing up and down. That's real football.
Harry, we have had some really great moments, and they were all led by you and your in-the-moment leadership, if I will, from walking in, not being intimidated, but being the intimidator, through a team stretching routine, telling their running back he's going to fumble, looking at his offensive lineman saying, yeah, I said it, and he's taking his young linebackers out to the field with him. Pepper, Carl, come here. Gary, come here. We're going over there, and I'm going to tell this guy he's going to fumble. Told him he's going to fumble twice. He did it twice. We go out and we play some of our best football because you talk about it being a division game, but it's also the Washington football team, which meant even more than just a division, didn't it?
Well, yeah. And, it's interesting that you're talking about your own personal experiences of coming into the NFL. But, whenever the Giants played against Washington, you hated them, but then you also wanted to honor them because, they were really good players. They didn't do anything dirty. We respected them. They respected us. The incident that you're referring to is one that I always remember of warming up on the field and then scooping you up, taking you over to see George Rogers and telling George, you're going to fumble 2 or 3 times today and we're going to really just mess you up. And that's not something that I would normally do, but you feel that much comfortable with that team and the players on that team that you have no qualms about doing something like that prior to the game.
Harry, when you first broke in with the Giants in 1976, in that early part of your career, Washington was a team that had been in the Super Bowl in the 70s. They had George Allen. They had a lot of good players. Felt like Mark Mosley kicked a game-winning field goal against the Giants every time he played against you guys. What was it like to finally get over the hump deeper into your career where instead of them owning you, you guys own them?
Can I just share one little experience in regards to that game? That was the first game of the 1976 season. And I remember being on the sideline and I was just playing special teams at that time. But when the whistle blew and it was the kickoff, I said to myself, oh my God, look at how fast everybody's moving. I'd gone to college and you're playing down in RFK and it's no more practice. For me, it was one of those things where that was really my introduction to the NFL, just the speed of the game. They were good for a while. We stunk initially during the late 70s. We struggled and people kind of played us like the team that you wanted to play for homecoming. And, it was an interesting experience to go from being that team that was sort of a doormat for everybody to rising up to that level of being competitive and people actually starting to fear and respect you.
Kendall Fuller has been playing lights out, and it's his second tour of duty with Washington. He won a Super Bowl ring with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a great matchup for the New York Giants wide receivers. Anytime they're handling him against press coverage, he's very physical.
Now, he's not somebody that follows the best wide receiver around, but he is going to see Darius Slayton this week. Coming off another good game, look at these numbers, leads the Giants in all of those statistical categories. He's been their top playmaker this year.
Yeah, Slayton has been very consistent. He's been very explosive, too. And I think what's been impressive this season is he's adding to that speed. He's not just the one-trick pony. He's not just a go-route receiver right now. He's setting things up with his slant routes. And I think his relationship with Daniel Jones has been excellent. It continues to grow. They've got great timing. And John, he's been extremely elusive after the catch. I think when you have a receiver that can do all that, it really puts the corner in a stressful position because they have to respect that slant route, and that sets him up for that stutter go, that second double move that now you can hit the home run ball over the top.
Now in their first matchup, Slayton had pair catches, just over 40 yards and a touchdown. Neither of those catches came against Fuller. How do you expect these guys to match up? Washington more of a zone team than they used to be.
Yeah, they're definitely playing a lot more zone. And that touchdown that you mentioned, Slayton was in the slot, and it was not against Fuller. But I think for Washington, their defense is going through a little bit of a shift right now. Landon Collins went down with an Achilles injury a couple of weeks ago, so that could change the way that they want to play on the back end. You could see a little bit more too high safety looks, which will allow the corners like Fuller to be a little bit more aggressive if you're playing cover two. Now you can actually jam the receiver a little bit more. Fuller is very active. And look, in that Week 6 game, John, he had an interception and a pass breakup, and you could see right here, he leads the NFL in interceptions right now. So he's a ball-hawking corner. Anytime the ball is around him, he thinks it's his ball, he's going to go after and get it. So Daniel Jones is going to have to be very careful with it. Darius Slayton is going to have to come back to the football at times, just like he did last week.
This week, you play a Washington team that is number 1 in the NFL in passing defense. Now, you didn't play them the other day when they were here at MetLife. What do you see from their pass defense that makes it so difficult to deal with?
Yeah, we're kind of still getting into some of the details in their defense, and honestly, they've grown a lot as a team. So we have a lot more studying to do. They're definitely not the same team that we played earlier in the season. So we're still doing some of the game planning stuff and trying to get a good grip on these guys.
Yeah, we all know that the best friend for a secondary is pressure from the front four, and you know that those guys are going to get after Daniel for sure.
Oh, yeah, we got to be assignment sound and make sure that we pick up some of the blitzes that they're going to throw our way.
One of the other things you notice about their defense, it stands out, they're amongst the NFL leaders in team interceptions. Do you consider them more of a gambling secondary, or have they just had a lot of opportunities to turn the ball over on people?
Yeah, I think it goes back down to the front four and then bringing pressure. You know, if you can get pressure on the quarterback and move him around, then a lot of the times it can end up in some misthrown balls and some off-target balls. And I think they've done a good job of capitalizing on that. So back to the point, we have to be able to pick up some of the pressure that they're going to send our way and be able to handle it.
All right, and then the number 4. Giants have won the last 4 games against Washington. Now, look, they're not blowing them out. Last year in Washington, it took overtime. Earlier this year, the Giants had to stop a 2-point conversion. But winning does breed confidence, so I got to think that when they see the Washington uniform, they feel like, hey, we got a legitimate shot here.
Well, legitimate shot is what it's called because none of these games are easy, like you said, and Washington's coming off of a big game themselves.
Yeah, against the Dallas Cowboys, winning in that football game.